Welcome back. Thank you very much, Abir Hussein and Rasha Abdelhamid, for this report back here in the studio with Dr. Hossein Farahat, Professor of Human Development at the AUC. Professor Farahat, as we heard in the report, Egypt showed a lot of resilience in the face of many challenges in the past few years, but we're still living in the VUCA, in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous regional and global atmosphere. So the challenges are so many. First of all, take us through the thinking, the strategic thinking in the new VUCA that we are facing. And perhaps I guess we'd better start by defining strategic thinking itself, which must have a comprehensive meaning.
All right. As I always say, if you make a definition, a proper definition will lead to analysis that leads to solutions. So we have first to think about what is the meaning of strategy or strategic, and the meaning of thinking, and then we can go deeper. If we think about the word strategy, the word strategy is coming from the Greek strategia. It's the same as we pronounce it in Arabic. It's strategia, which is the art of war. So it refers to the art of war. Why it is the art of war? If you remember in the old days, the leaders...
Athens and Sparta.
Athens and Sparta. The leaders would get into the tent with their group leaders, and then they explain to them what will happen tomorrow. So it's, in a sense, they are visualizing into the future. We call it bringing the future now.
We confuse, most of us confuse between strategy and tactic.
Yes.
What you mentioned, isn't that more of a tactic when we talk about tomorrow?
No, when you talk about tomorrow, that's the vision, that you are seeing something, you are seeing something that will happen in the future.
So allow me first to ask you about the difference between strategy and tactic.
Sure.
Because many of us, I think, confuse between them.
Sure. If we're talking about the strategy, strategy is the art of dealing with tomorrow, the art of dealing with the future. The word near future, medium future, and long future have no meaning at all. It's something that did not happen, and that's how we can define it. The tactics are the ways that we will implement
in the present.
In such a way that we can achieve the strategic goals. The goals of the strategy.
Understood. So strategy has a more comprehensive, much more comprehensive meaning
than the tactics, of course. So if you go to the strategia, that's the strategy, it's how you can see into the future. And my professor always said that this is how you bring the future today, as if it's happening now. It's not, you do not talk about the strategy as it will happen tomorrow. It is as if it's happening now. That's the definition of the strategy. And the definition of thinking, it's the art of finding solutions for a specific problem. So you do not think for the purpose of thinking. You think when you are faced with something that you have not encountered before. So if you are not encountered with anything, then that's for you the unknown. You're trying to find a solution for the unknown. So that's the thinking. Strategic thinking is how to deal with the unknown in the future, whether it is a near future or a far future. So that's the definition.
Naturally, Egypt, like any other country in the world, would be embarking on strategic thinking to find competitive advantages. Sustainable competitive advantages. Certainly, Egypt has been blessed with many things that give it by default an advantage, a competitive advantage. Can you talk to us about some of these advantages and Egypt's vision, the 2030 vision and the bigger visions, and how are we using our competitive advantage?
Well, actually, if we are thinking about the competitive advantage, we have privileges. We, as Egypt, being in the center of, that's we were told years and years ago, and still valid, that we are in the center of the Middle East, we are pivotal. So all the opportunities should pass through us. If we think about the history, we have huge history that can attract plenty of tourists. We have the Suez Canal and the economical zone around the Suez Canal, which is a huge opportunity also. Also, we have unlimited resources with regards to the human resources. We have capabilities, we have capable people that can take the country further into the near future, the 2030 sustainable vision.
Right. Now, Dr. Farahat, let's get into strategic thinking in the new VOCA, and let's try to simplify, to give a simplified, a simplified explanation for VOCA: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous.
Yes, this have started some time ago after the beginning of the Cold War between Russia and the United States. The future was unknown. When they reached an agreement with Gorbachev, then the future was unknown. Nobody knew who will be the enemy at that stage.
Right.
So it turned into a military term, that you are facing something that can change very quickly. That's why that's what we call it volatile. Volatile means that it can change extremely at a high rate with high magnitude. So we are facing a new set of variables. So that's why we call it volatile, and it can go up and down.
Yes, and the word volatile and the way you were defining it reminded me automatically of what happens in stock markets, for instance, because we hear this word a lot, volatility.
Yes.
There is, in fact, something called the volatility index.
Yes.
And when you said up and down and magnitude and frequency and so on, in the times of turbulence, we see stocks go up sharply, go down sharply, and so on, with rumors, with a lot of other factors.
Yes. So it's again, as you have mentioned, it's like that graph of we don't know the amplitude and we don't know the frequency. It's totally unknown and totally unexpected. That's where it is. Then we move into the uncertain.
Before we go into uncertain,
Yes.
volatile, doesn't it have to do something? I mean, when we passed through COVID,
Yes.
wasn't this also another example of volatility?
Speaking about this, we resembled the word VOCA from the military, as we said, and it showed very, very deeply during the COVID, because that was something that we did not see before. At least this generation haven't seen such dramatic effects on economies, on people, on health, and nobody was even aware of what's going on. So that's is it going up? Is it going down? We don't know how many casualties, how many people are recovering. Nobody knows.
Since
so
that big Spanish,
yes, the Spanish flu, something like 100 years back in 19 blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yes. So we were trying to rely on historical information, but we couldn't resemble what's going on.
And this is what also the world of economy and business sometimes calls uncharted territory. We are going into uncharted
territories, something that we have never sailed in before.
Right.
So that's the word volatile, and then we go into the word uncertain. Uncertain means that you are not 100% sure what would happen next. It may go up, it may go down. It may be simple, and it may be very complex. So the uncertainty is a factor of risk, because I cannot plan on things that I do not know whether it will happen or not. So that's where the word uncertain is kicking in.
So I understand that VOCA, or have the sense that VOCA was taken from the military world into the business world?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because in the war, you are making a plan. You are putting a strategy. You're doing something, and then the next day, your opponent, your enemy, is reacting to this. How would he react? You never know. So it's you have always to be ready for his reflex or whatever his the opponent newer strategy in such a way that you don't know what he will do. Then you have to re-deal with the new situation.
Right. It's something like a chess game.
Yes.
Some sort of a chess game.
Yes, definitely.
And the reason why I said, is it now VOCA more connected to the world of economy and business, is because the word uncertain, I also hear it a lot in the world, again, of markets and stock markets. I always heard the expression, markets hate uncertainty.
Yes.
I've heard this a lot.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And we always say that the stock market is a coward whenever it comes to risks. So the stock markets gets very annoyed, if we use the word, with the uncertainty. So the uncertainty is an element that prohibits the strategists from developing long-term programs, long-term tactics, and this is where the tactics are kicking in.
Also heard that like uncertainty is the #1 enemy
Yes.
to markets. Now, in the world we are living in today, and especially in the region we are living in today, there are a lot of uncertainties.
Yes.
Uncertainties, not just economically, but politically, a lot of wars, a lot of tension, a lot of alliances being broken up and new alliances being made. I mean, things are volatile.
Very volatile. And the thing is that all those elements are external. They are away from our control in a sense. So there are political changes, economical changes, socio-cultural changes, environmental changes, and you have to deal with all that complexity on the spot. When things happen, then we can deal. I think what we are facing right now with the situation in Gaza, you never know what will happen tomorrow, and after 103 days right now, in every day, you cannot predict what would happen tomorrow.
Nobody knew that the 7th of October was going to happen. I mean, yeah.
And the reflex. No one saw that the reaction and the reflex from the other party is extending for that long. So that's a clear example of how the VOCA is.
Of course, we pray for the people of occupied Palestine and the innocent victims, the civilians, the tens of thousands of women and children who have lost their lives and been injured, and those who are lost in the face of the brutal aggression of the Israeli occupation. Now, Dr. Farhat, you mentioned complexity.
Yes.
Complexity, because a lot of elements are being brought up, some that we could have predicted a few months or a few years back, but others that are coming in almost every other day. Yeah.
The complexity, things have not been constant since the start of the coronavirus or the COVID-19. We had a year of ambiguity, a huge ambiguity what would happen, and then next year we started to see that there are solutions. And then we have seen the Russia-Ukraine conflict that was never also predicted one more time. So economically, the world, not only Egypt, not only the region, have been hit hardly economically from those two situations together. If you would remember the ship that blocked the Suez Canal some 3 years ago, and it stayed there for almost 10 days.
Evergreen, I think.
Ever Given.
Ever Given.
It's the Ever Given.
Yeah.
it blocked the Suez Canal for a couple of weeks. What happened to the supply chain worldwide?
Right.
Nobody could expect that this may happen. So this is a new set of strategies are being deployed in the world after that incident.
And even since the start of the Israeli war on Palestinians, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank as well, in occupied East Jerusalem, Al-Quds, South Lebanon, what happened in the Red Sea a few weeks later was unknown. I mean,
Yes.
because things weren't complicated or complex in the Red Sea until weeks after the war started.
Yes, yes,
So that was a new element.
Nobody could have predicted that this would happen earlier in the game, earlier in time and during October. Nobody thought
And
that,
have this
that this
effect.
may happen, and have this effect, undermining the capabilities of people. So it's I don't know. It's being getting up and higher for reasons that are beyond our expectation and are beyond our control, in a sense. But it will affect us. Yes, it will affect us. But I can assume that General Rabia this morning said that as long as we are higher than 50% of the level of the Suez Canal, we are still in good shape, which is. Now we can predict again. We can predict what we can do and what we cannot do. So it's it's very complex. Many
It's affecting the whole
parties-
world.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's basically if you think about getting products from China to Europe, how much the cost is, how much the insurance on ships is, how much time it takes, and
More time, higher cost,
complex,
insurance rising, yeah.
extremely complex. We're talking about I work in the supply chain. That's part of my work. It's extremely complicated that you are turning around. So it's being tough again and complex as we can see.
ambiguous is the final word of VOCA.
The definition, yes, ambiguous. Ambiguous is you are subject to huge risks because you do not see clearly what's next to happen, what will be the outcomes, what would be the new norm. If you can remember when we started, we had the norm, and then we had the COVID, and we had a new norm after COVID. Right now in the universities, we have a new norm. We have still online is there, and face-to-face is there.
Expanding.
So it's actually, that's what
The
we
new
call
norm.
the new norm. So nobody could think that this will be the new norm. That's the ambiguous part of the VOCA, that you are not certain what would happen. It's not uncertainty, ambiguity. You do not see in the future. It's
Yeah,
like,
it has something to do with vision. So you have a blurry vision.
Yes.
You have a foggy vision. Yeah.
it is as if you are driving in the fog. You
Nothing
cannot-
worse than that, by the way.
Yes, yes. So you can never expect what would be what would happen tomorrow, in a sense.
I think most of the world's countries must be now, getting into the strategic thinking of how to deal with the new VOCA.
Yes.
Because we are seeing volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in just about everywhere.
In the world.
Yeah.
Well, the strategists and the book authors, the academia, they have come with a new, what they called the VOCA Prime. What is the VOCA Prime? This is the solution to the VOCA situation. So what is the VOCA Prime? It's again acronym. You should have a vision. The strategist should have a vision, a clear vision. What are the values of the organization that we are leading, or the country we are leading, or whatever. What is the vision? Where I want to be in the future? I have to make it very clear to myself as a strategist and to my team that where are we heading? What are we standing for? What are our priorities? So the first thing is to have a vision, a clear vision. Again, there is what we call the understanding. What is the understanding? Is getting to know and to understand the consequences. What if? Earlier, before, we used to say that we have what we call the contingency planning, or plan A, plan B, plan C. Right now, we have to understand that we are working on the go. We are working on a very liquid, very dynamic situation. So we have to understand this and accept that there will be damages. We have to accept that there will be damages. But nevertheless, if you prioritize right, then the damages will come into the things that are not with priority. I hope it's...
I can relate to that even on the personal level. So you are saying that it's no longer about plan A, B, or C, but because the situation and situations are so fluid, then you're just on the go. Sometimes with your intuition, you don't know what's going to happen, but you just on the go and you take it from there.
That's it. And then you start to communicate with people. What is communicate? Communicate. Tell your team. Those are. This is my vision. This is how I see it. This is how I understand it. Make them understand what you understand. That's where it should kick in, because in this case, the team will buy in the decisions being taken, and they will buy in and absorb the risks and the negative outcomes. There will be negative outcomes, but your team, your family, their families, they have more important issues than the vision. They have their families, they have their living, they have their things. So we have to communicate continuously. That's what I always advise the companies that I am working with. Tell the people we are in tough situation. Tell the people for them to be prepared, and for them to kick in with ideas and prevent extra damages that are caused by external elements. So that's communicate. People in general do not care how much you know until they know how much you care about them personally. So care, communicate, show them that you care. Well, we are in this together.
But I grasp from your words, Dr. Farahat, that even we as people,
yes,
not just states or organizations, but even families and even us individuals, we must embark on this VOCA and have a strategy and have tactics and weigh the risks and sometimes just take it on the go because it's fluid and so on. And sometimes we do this while we are not aware that we are in this frame.
Subconsciously, yes, because, well, that's basically the academia stipulates the things that we do by nature. We only show it to the people that do not have it by nature, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And reflect it on organizations.
Yeah.
But if you think like family issues, you have to be extremely strategic as well. And we are very strategic. We think about our kids. We think about their future. We think about. We don't care about. Some people think about money, and some other people say think about education and success and finding a good job. But every family, every organization, that's what I call it, every organization have its own set of goals. Let me return to the lost word, to be agile. Agile means that we have to be working on the move, flexible, take sets of action, and if it doesn't work, very quickly work
Adapt,
on,
yeah.
on
a new,
a newer version of what you have done. This is flexibility. This is not non-adherence to the original
or
thinking.
non-compliance or non-discipline
no,
or
it's
so on. Yeah.
generally this is what we call refining the steps that we are doing every now and then.
It's very good that you made it clear, because some of us indeed would have immediately thought, well, this would mean I'm undisciplined, or because there is a school that say stay disciplined, stay with the plan, don't change course for whatever reason. So we have to be agile.
Yes.
Now, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but time is running out. So the stages of the strategic thinking process.
Yes, in this.
I think you talked to us about some of them, but please.
I will.
Brief
They
us
are
again.
they are 4 steps that you should be aware of. Number 1, we have to do what we call the environmental scanning. We have to see what we can do and what we cannot do internally, and we have to see what would happen in the external world, like as I have mentioned before. So you have to be aware of what's happening and how can you deal with what's happening. So that's the environmental scanning. Then we kick into the strategy formulation, where in the strategy formulation you put down those ideas into on work, on paper, steps, tactics. This is you put the tactics in, and then the third step is the strategy implementation. Work, try, and see where you are, and that's where feedback and control comes in. You see what kind of results. Is this the result that you are looking for, or you have to change again into the environmental scanning, maybe something that you did not see, maybe you have to re-strategize the situation based on the VOCA that we spoke about. Maybe during the implementation we did not have the tools that can help visualize the strategy or get the strategy in action. So it's a continuous process that you have always to do it. Well, before we used to strategize or do this every quarter or biannually. That's how we do it. Right now, I can assume that we can work on daily basis. We have to rethink and revisit everything on daily basis.
In fact, we remember that for years we've lived like with the 3-year plan or the 5-year plan and so on. But now it has to be, you're saying it has to be updated on a more regular
basis. You cannot...
Because we are living in the VOCA.
In the VOCA. So we are getting this from the project management schemes. We have the agile project management. In the agile project management, we have what we call the stand-up at the beginning of the week. And then we have a sprint. We do things throughout the week. And then we have another stand-up next week. So the period where you analyze what you do, and then you see what kind of results that you could achieve and what kind of changes that you will implement next week. So we don't wait till the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year. We work by the end of every week.
Indeed. There must be a lot of reflection, a lot of analysis. Now, one final question. Dr. Farhat, whenever we talk about strategy, whenever we talk about setting goals, legitimate goals, there is always a conflict between being realistic and but also having ambition and being ambitious. How do we solve this conflict? Because sometimes people will tell you, you're not realistic. Sometimes you're not ambitious. So how do we solve this conflict? Because there seems to be an eternal conflict between the two.
Definitely. I speak to most of my students on the motivation. You cannot motivate people with setting low goals, with no ambitions.
Naturally, yeah.
They will never be motivated. And if you stick to very high goals that they cannot achieve, they will get demotivated. So we have to carefully discuss our internals, what are our capabilities, and we try always to give the organizations that we are leading some edge to stretch the capabilities, stretch how people are doing it. And this is the only way, because do not
It's
set
a fine
the-
line, Dr. Farhat.
Definitely, it's a
Yeah.
very fine line. But if you are knowledgeable about your team, about the situation, about the external factors, it comes to be automatic. It kicks in easily as long as you are doing it on a weekly basis or whatever.
Dr. Farhat, really enjoyed having you. Dr. Hossein Farhat, Professor of Human Development at the American University in Cairo. Thank you very much for your time and your insights, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope
sir.
to see you again. Hope to
Inshallah.
see you again, dear viewers. Thank you for watching Business Insider. Please stay with Nile TV International. Goodbye.